Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how the objects we hold onto aren't just things? They carry the weight of our past, the stories of who we were and the life we've lived. The truth is, decluttering in your later years isn't just about throwing things away. It's a psychological reckoning. It's about confronting the undeniable reality that time moves forward whether we like it or not. And while people may tell you it's easy, just toss what you don't need and move on, make no mistake, the process is far more complex. It's about letting go of the pieces of your identity and finding the strength to embrace the next chapter of your life. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now let's begin. Every single object in your home is more than just a possession. It is a keeper of memories, a silent storyteller of your past, a physical manifestation of the moments that shaped you. These items are intertwined with your experiences, your emotions, and your identity itself. They are not just things you own, they are echoes of your life. When you glance around your living space, what do you see? To an outsider, it may look like just a room filled with furniture, shelves of books, stacks of old papers, and trinkets collecting dust. But to you, these things are much more than objects. They are fragments of time, frozen reminders of the person you were, the people you loved, the dreams you chased, and the moments that made you laugh, cry, and grow. That armchair in the corner isn't just a chair. It's where you sat and cradled your child late at night when they couldn't sleep. The pile of old birthday cards in the drawer isn't just paper. It's the proof that, over the years, people cared about you enough to write those words. Even the old, worn-out t-shirt at the bottom of your closet is more than fabric. It's a souvenir from a concert, a trip, a day when you felt truly alive. That is why decluttering, especially in later years, is so much more than simply deciding what to keep and what to throw away. It is an emotional process, a deeply personal reckoning with time itself. It forces you to confront the reality that certain chapters of your life have already closed. Acknowledging that, fully accepting that some moments are now only memories, can be one of the hardest things to do. Because when you let go of an object, you are not just discarding an item. In a way, you are saying goodbye to the version of yourself that once needed it. Take a moment to think about the possessions you have gathered over the decades. Look at your bookshelf. Those books are not just stories bound on paper. They represent periods of your life when you were searching for knowledge, seeking answers, and growing into the person you are today. Some of them may have been read in moments of solitude, others discussed with a friend who is no longer here. Each book, whether it is read or unread, carries a piece of who you were when you bought it. Now consider the tools in your garage. Maybe they were once an extension of your hands, helping you build, repair, and create. Each scratch, each worn-out handle tells a story of a project completed, a problem solved, and a sense of capability and confidence that defined you. But perhaps, as time has passed, you no longer use them the way you once did, and letting them go feels like admitting that those days, the days of fixing things yourself, of taking on new projects, might be behind you. Then there are the clothes. That dress, that suit, the one hanging untouched for years, still holds a trace of the person you were when you last wore it. Maybe it was a wedding, a promotion, a celebration where you felt your best, where you walked into a room and knew you belonged. To throw it away feels almost wrong, as if you are erasing the memory itself, even though the reality is that the memory will always be a part of you, whether the fabric remains or not. Objects do not just take up space, they carry weight, the weight of time, of meaning, of identity. This is why decluttering is so emotional and difficult, because it is not really about the items themselves. It is about what they represent. It is about acknowledging that time has passed, that some roles you once held no longer define you, and that some dreams were fulfilled while others were quietly left behind, and that can be terrifying. To let go of these objects can feel like letting go of yourself. It can feel like saying goodbye to the person you used to be. The young dreamer, the ambitious professional, the hands-on fixer, the loving parent in the middle of life's chaos. And yet, perhaps there is another way to look at it. Maybe letting go does not mean forgetting. Maybe it does not mean erasing those chapters of your life. Maybe it simply means making room. Room for the person you are now, for the life you are still living, for the experiences that are yet to come. Perhaps the past is not meant to be carried in physical objects forever, but rather cherished in our hearts, in the stories we tell, and in the wisdom we pass on. Because, at the end of the day, life is not about the things we own, it is about the moments we live. And while it is never easy to say goodbye to the past, it is worth remembering that every ending also makes way for a new beginning. If you've spent your life dedicated to a profession, the idea of parting with old work materials can feel like saying goodbye to a core part of yourself. Those files, notebooks, or tools weren't just instruments of your trade. They were proof of your expertise, your dedication, and the years of effort you put into mastering your craft. They tell the story of late nights, hard-earned successes, and the countless hours spent refining your skills. Letting go of them might feel as though you're erasing evidence of all that hard work, as if, without them, the significance of your contributions could somehow be forgotten. For an artist, the weight of decluttering can be even more profound. An old sketchbook, a stack of unfinished canvases, or a collection of dried-up paintbrushes might not seem like much to an outsider, but to the creator they hold the essence of past inspiration. They are reminders of the moments when creativity flowed effortlessly, when each stroke or sketch was a glimpse into the artist's soul. To discard them might feel like admitting that those days of inspiration and expression are behind you, like closing the door on the creative self you once were. Even the most ordinary household items, things as simple as a set of dishes, can carry surprising emotional weight. Plates and cups are not just objects. They are silent witnesses to years of family meals, lively conversations, and the warmth of loved ones gathered around the table. Each chip or scratch on their surface is a memory, a reminder of birthday celebrations, quiet Sunday breakfasts, or the laughter that once echoed through a home that may not feel as full as it once did. Parting with them can feel like letting go of those moments, as if clearing the space on the shelves somehow diminishes the richness of the past. This is why so many people put off decluttering. It's not just about making choices about what stays and what goes. It's about confronting time itself. It's about facing the reality that life is constantly evolving, and the person you were 5, 10, or 20 years ago is not the person you are today. It's about accepting that no matter how much we try to hold on to the past, some things inevitably fade, and that can be painful. What many people don't realize, though, is that keeping everything doesn't stop time from moving forward. It doesn't preserve the past in the way we wish it would. Instead, it creates burdens, physical clutter that takes up space in our homes, and emotional weight that lingers in our hearts. The struggle isn't just about tidying up. It's about the fear that without these objects, we might lose our connection to the past, to the people we once were, to the moments we cherish most. But here's the truth. Your identity is not stored in the things you own. You are not your old work files. You are not the books you once read, the clothes you used to wear, or the souvenirs from trips you took long ago. You are the person who lived those experiences, who gained knowledge, who created, who laughed, who loved. Those moments shaped you, and they are embedded in your heart and mind, not in the objects that represent them. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean that what once mattered is now meaningless. Instead, it is an act of trust, a trust that the past will always be a part of you, even if you no longer hold on to the physical reminders. It is a way of making space, not just in your home, but in your life. Space for new experiences, new memories, new versions of yourself that are still waiting to be discovered. Because life is not meant to be lived weighed down by the past. It is meant to be embraced, fully and freely, with open hands and an open heart. And sometimes the greatest act of honoring our history is not in keeping everything from it, but in allowing ourselves the freedom to move forward. Your value, your wisdom, and the very core of who you are. These are not bound by the physical items that fill your home. They do not reside in the clothes you wear, the furniture that surrounds you, or the souvenirs you've collected over time. Instead, they live within the experiences you've lived, the people you've loved, and the lessons you've learned. When you let go of clutter, you're not losing parts of yourself. You are creating room for something new, something meaningful to emerge, a clearer vision of who you are and who you want to become in the next chapter of your life. Yet, the process of letting go is never simple. It's not just about discarding things you no longer need. It's about facing the overwhelming and often painful emotions that come with it. When you start to sift through your possessions, you realize that each item is more than just a material object. It's a vessel of memories, emotions, and stories. And for many, this is where the emotional battle begins, a battle that is often accompanied by a heavy burden of guilt. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Every item you contemplate letting go of carries its own unique story. Some stories are joyful, filled with the warmth of a special memory, perhaps a gift given on a meaningful occasion or a keepsake from a long-forgotten trip. Other items may be tied to painful moments, things you'd rather forget but can't. Even a seemingly trivial object can bring floods of emotion. An old piece of jewelry, a childhood toy, or a picture in a frame that reminds you of a relationship that once mattered deeply. When you hold something in your hands, whether it's an old letter, a trinket, or a worn-out sweater, it's not just an object. It is a piece of a life that has already been lived, a bridge to the past, a representation of a moment in time that has shaped who you are today. And parting with it can feel like a betrayal, like you're abandoning a connection to someone, to a moment that once brought you happiness, or even to a version of yourself that you may have outgrown but still cherish. The thought of discarding it can stir up feelings of guilt, as if by letting go of the object, you're letting go of the person or the memory it represents. For those in their later years, this emotional struggle intensifies. As we age, we inevitably face the painful truth that our past is filled with moments and people that may never come again. The fear of erasing these memories, of losing touch with who we once were, makes it even harder to part with possessions. Decluttering becomes more than just tidying up. It becomes an emotional and psychological hurdle. It forces us to confront time itself, the passage of time, the fleeting nature of life, and the fact that no matter how much we try to hold on, some things are simply meant to fade away. A gift from a deceased loved one, for example, isn't just an item. It is a tangible reminder of their presence, their love, and their care. A piece of jewelry passed down through generations carries with it the stories of those who wore it before you. A collection of birthday cards, no matter how yellowed or dog-eared, reminds you of the people who once celebrated you, who took time out of their lives to show you that you mattered. These items are not just physical objects. They are emotional anchors, holding us to the past, to people, to moments in time that may never be replicated. To let go of these things feels like an act of forgetting, a dismissal of the love and effort that went into creating those memories. It can feel like erasing the very people and relationships that defined who we were. And for many, the thought of doing so is simply too much to bear. But here's the hard truth. Keeping these objects doesn't bring the past back. It doesn't keep those we've lost alive. It doesn't freeze time in place. What's gone is gone, and no matter how much we try to preserve the past through material things, it will always remain a chapter that is closed. The people and the moments will always live in our hearts and minds, but the objects themselves cannot serve as a lifeline to a time that no longer exists. This leads to another form of guilt, the guilt of waste. You might look at an item, perhaps an expensive coat you never wore or a gift you never used, and feel guilty for not putting it to its proper use. Perhaps you were raised with the belief that wasting anything, even something that has no place in your current life, is irresponsible. You may feel a sense of obligation to hold on to it, to give it purpose, to prove that you didn't waste the resources that went into acquiring it. But what many people fail to recognize is that keeping something out of guilt does not make it more valuable. An object sitting unused in your home, gathering dust, does not fulfill its intended purpose. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't honor the person who gave it to you or the memories it holds. All it does is take up space, both physical space in your home and emotional space in your mind. By holding on to these things out of guilt, we're essentially denying ourselves the chance to live more freely. We're holding on to objects that no longer serve us, which only weighs us down. In contrast, when we allow ourselves to let go of what no longer brings us joy, we create room for new experiences, new memories, and new opportunities. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It doesn't mean that the past is gone, or that it no longer matters. What it means is that you're permitting yourself to honor what has been while making room for what is yet to come. You are acknowledging that your memories and your identity are not tied to the objects you hold on to. They are carried with you, in your heart, in your soul, and in the way you live your life. It's also important to realize that letting go of things doesn't mean disrespecting the past. On the contrary, it's an act of gratitude, an acknowledgement that the items served their purpose in your life. They gave you joy, they held memories, and they helped shape who you are. But now, it's time to let them go, not because they are less important, but because you are ready to move forward. You're ready to create new space for new experiences, and that doesn't mean erasing the past, it means embracing the present. As you declutter, remember that your identity is not tied to your possessions. You are not the things you own. You are the life you've lived, the love you've given, and the person you continue to become. When you make space in your life, you're not just freeing yourself from physical objects. You're freeing yourself from emotional burdens, allowing yourself the freedom to live fully and without the weight of guilt. Life is about movement, change, and growth. It's about accepting the fact that time moves forward, and so must you. And sometimes, the most profound act of honoring the past is to let go of the things that no longer serve you, so you can embrace the future with open hands and an open heart. Another painful source of guilt when decluttering comes from the deep-seated fear that you might regret your decision later. The thought lingers in your mind. What if I need this someday? What if I get rid of it and suddenly a situation arises where I wish I had it back? That small nagging voice can make even the simplest choices feel overwhelming, turning what should be an act of renewal into an agonizing internal battle. This fear of regret is paralyzing. It creates a cycle of hesitation where you hold on to things, not because you truly need them, but because of the possibility that you might. That single word, might, keeps drawers overflowing with papers you haven't read in years, closets stuffed with clothes you no longer wear, and storage spaces packed with items that once had a purpose but now simply exist as emotional burdens. It's as if parting with these things is a gamble, a risk that you might one day wake up and desperately wish for their return. But let's pause for a moment and look at this rationally. How often has that someday actually arrived? How many times have you truly needed something that had been sitting untouched for 5, 10, or even 20 years? The reality is that most of the things we cling to out of fear rarely serve us in the future. The idea that we might need them is usually an illusion, a mental trick we play on ourselves to justify holding on. In truth, if something has remained unused for years, the chances of it suddenly becoming essential are extremely slim. And even if, in rare circumstances, you do find yourself needing something you let go of, the world hasn't ended. There are always alternatives. There are always ways to adapt, to replace, to move forward without it. The loss of an object does not mean the loss of your ability to function, to problem solve, or to continue living your life with ease. What we tend to forget in moments of indecision is that we are far more resourceful than we give ourselves credit for. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But the guilt tied to decluttering goes even deeper than just fear of regret. Sometimes the pain comes from the emotional connection we have to objects, not just the what if of the future, but the what was of the past. We attach meaning to possessions because they remind us of people, places, and moments we cherish. When we consider letting them go, it can feel like we are betraying the memory attached to them, as if discarding the object is equivalent to discarding the love, the connection, or the history that came with it. But here's the truth. Memories, love, and respect are not stored in objects. They are stored in you. No matter how many things you keep, they cannot replace the experiences you've lived, the moments that mattered most, the laughter shared around a dinner table, the hugs from loved ones, the lessons learned through hardships, don't fade simply because you no longer have a physical item to remind you of them. Your past is not held in a box, in a closet or an attic. It is carried within you, in your heart, in your mind, in the way you continue to live and love. The impact people have on your life is not diminished by letting go of the things they left behind. A grandmother's love is not contained in a piece of jewelry. It is in the warmth of her embrace, the wisdom in her words, and the way she makes you feel seen and valued. A friend's kindness is not tied to an old letter or a trinket. It is in the countless conversations, the support they offered, and the way they shaped the person you are today. These things cannot be thrown away because they were never confined to objects in the first place. By releasing unnecessary possessions, you are not erasing your past, you are making space for your present. You are choosing to honor your life, not by hoarding reminders of what was, but by fully embracing what is. You are allowing yourself to live with greater freedom, with a lighter heart, and with the peace that comes from knowing that who you are is not defined by what you own. Letting go is not about loss. It is about trust. Trusting yourself to move forward without fear, trusting that your memories will never leave you, and trusting that by clearing space in your home and your heart, you are opening yourself up to a life that is not weighed down by the past, but illuminated by the possibilities of the future. As we wrap up today's discussion, I want you to reflect on everything we've explored together. We've delved into the emotional weight we place on possessions, the struggle with letting go, and the powerful realization that our memories, love, and identity are not tied to the things we keep. So, what have you learned so far? How has this conversation shifted the way you see your belongings, your memories, and your future? I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share one thing you've learned from this video and how you plan to bring it into your life. Whether it's letting go of guilt, embracing change, or simply starting the process of decluttering. I believe every small step makes a big difference. If you've found this video helpful or inspiring, please leave your comment, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.